Welcome to the Hypothalamic Amenorrhea podcast. I'm Dani Sheriff, your host, certified fertility awareness practitioner, functional nutrition counselor, and founder of the HA Society, and of course, an HA recovery coach who has walked where you currently are walking. This is the place to come if you care about getting your period regularly. This podcast aims to educate, inform, and keep you motivated on your period and HA recovery track. So let's dive in. But last thing, nothing on the show should be taken as medical advice, so please seek the advice of your physician. Are you listening to this show hoping to get some golden nuggets to help you on your way to recovery? Well, great. I hope that you find them because that is exactly what this show is for. But if you really want to take your recovery all the way, completely commit and get on track with your goals, whether they be finally feeling overall healthy, finally getting pregnant, or finally getting back to training, you'll want to join us inside of the HA Society. Not only is this the perfect community to ask questions and get your support and the accountability that you so often need during these uphill battles with body image and understanding nutrition and incorporating exercise, but it's also a hub of exclusive resources for HAs. All of the HA podcast episodes are released in advance and completely ad-free, so you can listen on the go to the raw, unedited versions uninterrupted. All of the one-on-one coaching calls, of which we have 2 a week in different time zones, are uploaded to our private podcast feed so that you can listen to events with practitioners and the past community calls as though they were bonus podcast episodes, because I know how much you love to listen to this kind of stuff. And in these calls, we cover requested topics like overcoming the weight gain fears, communicating with friends and family about our HA, diving into how HA works, and debunking the imposter syndrome that so many of us have around this diagnosis. There's also an entire resources section with lectures, workshops, and training from the past events that are hosted by experts like Sarah Liz King, Laura Lyons, Kaylee McDevitt, Holly Dunn, and many more. As a member, you also get direct access to myself and Coach Ashley in the DMs. So if you have personal questions or need individualized advice about your recovery, we're in there answering your questions in the DMs, as are all of our other members in the group who impress me week after week with how they show up for each other. It's incredible. It's like women are just all becoming mini coaches for each other. It's so good. The HA Society is really the place to be if you're going through recovery, no matter what stage you're at. Whether you have HA or you've got a few recovery periods, we have your back and we're all your new best friends. So come and meet us at thehasociety.com/join. That's thehasociety.com/join, and the link is in the show notes for you. Okay, on with the show. Hey everyone, welcome back to the HA podcast. I'm so pumped as always when I bring you guys a story time to have our guest Megan Mahoric,
you got it.
Did I do it? Yes.
You did
on the
it.
show. Welcome, Meg.
Thank you. It's so awesome to be here. Thanks so much, Dani, for listening to this story today. I'm really excited to catch up.
Yes, this is a fun one because you were like ages ago for me.
Yeah.
So often with them, I love like sometimes I'll interview someone fresh off the plate, you know, they're like a couple cycles in, and there's kind of like there's developments with yours, right? Because it was all like 2021.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like the beginning
so
of 2021.
Cool.
Yeah. So it's been a bit.
Okay. So will you just kind of do the honors of sharing who you are, where you're from, and just your story, like where you believe it started, all that good stuff.
Yeah, of course. Okay. Would love to. So I think I'd like to maybe start with my menstruation journey and where that started. I think that's so unique to every woman. And for my own experience, it started really early. I was 11 years old. And it was one of those stories where you're at a pool party, you're in my little tankini situation, and it was very awkward. And I really actively managed to hide it away at the time, since I was one of the first people that I knew who had started my period. So that was my experience with a period very early on in life. And it wasn't until I was about 15 years old that my period started to impact me in a way that I needed to leave school, for example, because my cramps were so painful. And it was difficult for me. My skin was bad, like all of these hormonal things, right? And as one does, you go to your OBGYN at that early age, and I immediately got on birth control pills. So ever since I was 15, I was on birth control pills up until 2020. So for the majority of my fertile life, right, I was on birth control pills. And so it's hard to know where potentially my HA may have started, but likely it was around 2016 or 2017 when I wasn't getting that, normal birth control period bleed. And at that time, I had connected with my OBGYN. I was also doing Working Against Gravity, Dani, which I know you're very familiar with.
Oh my God. Is that how you found us?
So no, which is so wild and ironic.
About that.
Yeah. So I was doing Working Against Gravity as well as Brute Body, which I believe is also connected. Yeah.
I was just at Michael and Adi's house last week.
I know you're really close with them, and it was a fantastic program. And what I love so much, Dani, about your story is that you had shared with me early on that was something that you were really keen on sharing around how we can connect and ask about a woman's period, right? Going through this program. So I was excited to hear that you were part of that program. But in any case, I joined WAG and Brute Bodies because I was going to get married the next following year. And so decided to do this, wanted to get lean and toned up and build some muscle, and ended up doing it and getting pretty lean over that time period. So I was with WAG probably about a year and a half, and lost some weight and was feeling good and didn't have a period during this time. And my OBGYN said, it's not a big deal. You don't need a period while you're on birth control pills. So sort of left it at that, and eventually got off WAG and Brute Body. I felt like I had and knew how to establish or wanting to lean out. Like I knew kind of what to do. So felt like I could get off the program. And if I wanted to lean out again, I knew how to do that. So come 2020, and Dani, stop me at any point if you want to talk more, but I'll just continue. So come 2020, I had just turned 30 and I was ready to have a baby. So 2020 was one hell of a year. This is the time of COVID. And I had gotten off of birth control pills and really wanted to just see what my body was going to do. And I didn't have a period for many months. And COVID hit. This is already a pretty stressful time for everyone. I didn't have my normal lifestyle of having a gym. And the only thing that I felt like I could do during that time to release some anxiety of COVID and the unknown was to go outside, and ended up being more active during COVID without having a gym. That again left me at a point where I was pretty lean into 2020. So I really was worried about not having a period in June and July. Connected again with my OBGYN, and she said, all right, let's do the tests, right? So they did an ultrasound, did a blood test, and my OB told me I have PCOS because I had cysts over my ovaries. And I believe my AMH was high as well. So she said, this is what it is. And in doing PCOS, I just connected 0% with what that was. In doing my research, it sounded like a lot of it, or PCOS has to do sometimes with diet, right? And so in doing my research, I began cutting things like gluten out of my diet and dairy, and restricting even more to try and support the healing process of PCOS. And in fact, I had asked about my weight with my OB at that time when she shared with me that I have PCOS. And she said, your BMI is at a healthy level. I really wouldn't worry about it. I don't think it has anything to do with your weight. So I sort of continued on and wanted another person's advice. So I contacted a family friend who recommended a holistic health coach. And she was the one who mentioned, based off of your lifestyle, based off of some of your results, I think you probably have this thing called HA. And at that time I had never heard about it. I couldn't even say the word hypothalamic amenorrhea. So I did a ton of research. And the first thing that I did was quite literally typed in HA, hypothalamic amenorrhea, into my Apple podcast to just get some audio of what this thing actually is. And you were the only resource for me at that time. And it was this like immediate download of information, right? Like I was totally binge listening to everything, all the content that you had. And I completely connected with you. I connected to the women on the podcast. And I knew very intuitively that this was my experience.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a cool spot to to kind of sum up or even add some context. So like for people who don't know, WAG, Work Against Gravity, that we reference, and Brew Body are basically macro tracking and CrossFit style programs. So just kind of like a lot of exercise and a lot of control of food, right? And do you kind of remember roughly how many calories you generally would eat?
Yeah. So the program works when you have a rest day, you eat less calories than if you have an active day. So on my rest days, I was eating probably 1,600 calories. It was pretty low. On my non-rest days, probably closer to 1,800 or 1,900. And I, to be totally frank, I shared this with my coach, I was hungry, she supported me with adding a few macros. Specifically, I think it was probably to my fats to help like with some of that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I was hungry for a lot of the program and wanted to hit my goals. And so I did it, like I'm very much of this, like type A, kind of wanting to hit those numbers exactly. And so I felt like it was a very successful week if I was able to hit those macros. So it fluctuated depending on what I wanted to do in my goals, but probably nowhere more than 2,000 calories a day.
Yeah. And do you remember how many days a week you were training?
5 or 6 days.
Yeah. Okay. And so this is definitely where like you and I have similar stories. Yeah, just more of that is better and will get me closer to where I'm trying to go. So, okay, you kind of went down this path and then you're like, oh, okay. Yeah. I have this history that is like, this just makes sense,
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah. And at this point I was listening, I was consuming the content, and I wasn't totally ready and prepared to completely change this lifestyle that I've convinced myself is the right way. And so I've been functioning for such a long time doing this thing, and it felt very comfortable. And so I decided to go to a fertility clinic before hiring you, Dani. And the fertility clinic, supports in a similar way of the OB, but they do ultrasounds. They prescribe me things like letrozole. We did talk about HA as an option. They agreed that it's probably likely where I'm at, but food and eating more was never a discussion, which I was really disappointed about. It wasn't necessarily about root causing, right? It was like just getting you pregnant. So what does that mean? Let's do, IUI or IVF, and let's talk about your options.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And in fact, when I brought it up, they suggested I should probably just eat a protein bar before I go to bed at night. So I ended up doing it. I was like eating a protein bar before bed, but it wasn't, it wasn't as, I think, prescriptive. And what I really loved about your program, Dani, is it was a lot more about your symptoms, your BBT, how you feel. And it was very much like, let's just get you pregnant and let's kind of ignore these other factors that are probably contributing to the reason why you're not ovulating.
Yeah. Totally. So like what made you not go through with the treatment?
Yeah. So they had put me on probably 5 or 6 rounds of letrozole.
Oh,
so letrozole supports with
it's
ovulation.
all coming back to me now.
Yeah. Letrozole supports ovulation, and it never worked. I never ovulated. Despite letrozole, I had never tried Clomid. I did a little bit of research and I felt like letrozole was a better option for me at the time, but never that letrozole never worked. And I ended up having an HCG shot, which essentially forces ovulation to happen. And I didn't get pregnant. So in January of 2021, right before I'd hired you, I was really spent and I was feeling tired and alone. And when you're a 30-year-old woman, most of your friends are getting pregnant. And my husband was an incredible force of optimism during this time. So and really, he really pushed me to connect with you, Dani, and felt that this was likely going to be a solve for me in talking through something like this with you and solving the root cause. So he, as well as me feeling just tired of this process of putting medication in my body and continued failure, really led me to hire you and connect with you and see what this is all about.
Wow. Yeah. I love husbands. The best. I know. I like when they come to the discovery calls. It's like they're
that would have been a really good idea. Okay. I love that idea.
I mean,
too.
I
That's
probably
highly
wasn't doing
encouraged
that back then. But I'm
yeah, that's really cool.
They're going to be like your number one supporter, you
did ask me about him. Time. Yeah. And I remember telling you that he was really big support, but I think that's key. It doesn't need to be a husband, right? Or a partner, but just someone,
just like whoever
that can support you in that process. I think that's really important.
Because it's so hard I'm curious what this was like for you, but it can be really hard for us to sort of put ourselves first like that. It's it's funny, it's easier for us to do something like hire a macro coach, right? Or like buy a program or whatever, because the outcome that we're getting is externally validated. But the outcome that you're getting from like restoring your health and your fertility and like looking after you and getting a period is less kind of celebrated, So of course, that's one of the reasons it's easier for people to take action when it's time to get a baby. But all of those things, all of those things are super important. I think one of the challenges is that it's not always externally validated. So it's certainly helpful when someone's husband is like, or partner or just main support person is pro that, because for some reason it gives us like a kind of permission to do something for ourselves.
When you're being told to rest and intuitively listen to what feels good in your body and frankly like gain weight, that is totally counter everything I had ever heard before about what it means to have a body, right? Like a feminine body, and all of these things are sort of backwards from what I have been taught. And so it was honoring those things and allowing my body to just rest and listening internally. So it was, to your point, it was very much different and from what I had ever known before. And you just encouraged it. It was a very lovely process working with you, and you understood completely since you did it yourself.
I also remember, learning that the working out and the desire to like be super lean wasn't actually that strong in you as we may have thought. It's maybe it was just like something you used to do that you used to love, that like kind of like the point you made earlier, like, well, now I'm 30 and I'm ready for my next stage of life. Or I don't always know what it is that like your 20s and your 30s are just totally different. It's crazy to think back. You're like, remember when I was just like so passionate about being jacked? It's like so weird to feel so differently. Like I just don't even have, but I remember having conversations with you about like what is like, if you weren't doing those things, like what would you be doing? Like what do you imagine? And I thought that was always really, really fun to kind of hear.
Yeah, you had me so we talked about it, and at the time I think there were two things. One, you had asked me what feels good to you in regards to movement. When we were talking about, do you want to work out at all? If so, like, what is it that you want to do? And we talked a lot about yoga, and we also discussed painting as something and writing as something that I feel like, I need to reconnect with that thing. Like, that's the thing that really lights me up. And you said to me, I totally have an image of you in overalls, pregnant, painting.
I still have the image in my head. There's plants in it too. There's like,
totally.
It's a sunroom and there's plants.
Yes.
Is that real?
Which is okay. It is. This is also really helpful. You helped me create these images that I could meditate on. And that image in particular, in 2021, we ended up buying a home in New Mexico. And we have this sunroom with all these beautiful plants in this sunroom. Yeah. Such a like wild picture that you had in your mind, because it was very real, what you were describing. And yeah, I mean, it really did come to fruition. So it was this image that I had drawn out myself when we were talking about it, and something I thought about quite often as like, is this, to me, feels like success, just being in flow with art and being with baby, and these things that I could really think on and meditate on were helpful images for me.
Yeah. It's like the thing that comes to mind is like just the total opposite of hyper productivity and just being and marinating in life. You guys, we have partnered up with the incredible skincare app Lovely. So check this out. My particular skin issues, if you will, are that I have huge pores and I get fluid kind of build up in my face, and I've never really known how to process it out of my face, or that there was anything I could do about it at all. I thought it was just bloating, and I can tell you that this is something that is really common in the HA society, and well, we see in clients as well all of the time, and that's why I wanted to share this with you. The Lovely app helped me develop a custom face yoga and massage plan to tackle these fluid buildup issues and my like enlarged pore issues, and I can't actually believe how well it worked. So when we finally found Lovely, an all-in-one holistic self-care app with face yoga being at its core, we jumped on the opportunity to partner up with them. In fact, it was a recovered HAer, so one of you who listened to the show, who reached out representing the brand, which means they represent our amazing listeners as well. So I thought that this is perfect. Now let me tell you about Lovely. Lovely, spelled Luvly, lets you get personalized face yoga and skincare programs tailored to your needs and goals. They help you learn facial massages and gua sha massages to help reduce tension, promote blood flow, and boost collagen production. They let you explore anti-stress tools such as breathing and mindfulness exercises to improve your mental health and well-being. So if you're not already using a mental health app, this is an all-in-one for you. And they let you enjoy personalized meal ideas for healthy and glowing skin based on your dietary preferences. That's awesome. When I tried out Lovely for the first time, I was blown away. I felt like I was doing a full-on skin routine that involved 0 products being used on my face other than my favorite moisturizer. I saw a difference in my skin tone and even the elasticity in my face. I had dealt with the drainage and blotchiness issues completely, and I had no idea that I could even deal with that. I had this whole story about my skin, and I just realized in the end that all I needed to do was get on top of a face yoga routine. So the reason I love this app for you is because it's a way for you to create a routine in your life and still have a quote-unquote workout that is actually serving you in any season of your life. So if you're still learning how to relax after a long day with a different approach to your previous stress relief strategies, you know who you are. There's nothing quite like winding down with a relaxing evening routine. And what better way to look after yourself than with Lovely's face yoga and mindful skincare routine? It's my current mommy alone time situation. So before you rush to try this app, here's something really cool. You don't just log in and start doing workouts for your face. They have created a quick quiz just for listeners of the HA podcast that will build a specific plan just for you based on your specific skin challenges and goals. So this is the best part. When you do the quiz, it doesn't take very long. You just answer a bunch of questions about your skin and like statements you believe are true about your skin, and it will generate a plan for you with a code that you can then apply to the app that will not only load it into the app for you, but also provide 50% off of your membership. So this is just for the listeners of the HA podcast. To find the quiz, go to lovely.thehasociety.com. This customized plan feature has made my specific skin goals improve so much, so the quiz is non-negotiable. And remember, do the quiz anyways if you want the 50% off of the plan and the whole app. It's worth it. It is key to your skin success. So unleash your inner beauty and nurture your beauty and confidence from within, y'all. Take a moment for your me time and enjoy your beauty journey during a time where your body composition goals are not able to be your number one baby. So take the quiz, get the discount, go to lovely, lovely.thehasociety.com. That's lovely.thehasociety.com.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I love it. So what do you feel like were the main things that your body was asking for in the end?
Yeah. So you mentioned hyperproductivity, and we also talked about resting, and being productive and busy are currently things that I consistently battle with. And having a 14-month-old and you needing to be present has certainly taught me a lot about the need for rest when she's resting, for example, and that if you're going to be occupied while you're with this person, she's not going to have it, right? And so going through this process with you really taught me to be a better parent for her around resting and being very, very present. And like, you know what, you're not going to be productive probably for the next year or two. Like things are just going to be different. And I was able to be a highly productive person up until being a mom, which I think is a different type of productivity. But that part for me was a rethinking of what it means to be with child and be successful in a way that's different from what I had thought before. So I think that for me was a total mind shift.
Yeah, because I actually don't recall a significant amount of but and you totally might have a different opinion, so I'm interested how you think about it, but that the food and exercise changes part was not particularly a wild roller coaster for you. It was like you kind of were able to just do it.
Yeah. And I think what helped in doing that is when I had come to you, I was ready. It was, yeah. I wanted to claim my body back so bad that I was willing to do whatever it took. And I was completely convinced that by doing so would give me my period. And Dani, and you remember I'd ovulated once, and that first time I got pregnant, it was very immediate.
Quick. Yeah, it was
so
quick.
Yeah. And so it certainly worked. And in fact, a few days leading up to it, you knew it was going to happen. And we had talked through those 10 days after in early pregnancy, and we both knew that likely this is going to result in a positive pregnancy test, but I was ready to do it. And I wanted my daughter so badly that I wanted to do it. And that came back to your point around when you have something that you want, it might push you, hard enough to do it. And now it's really not about that. I'm not trying to get pregnant right now. And it's a different process for me about honoring my period in a different way and my health and rest. But at the time, I was willing to do whatever it took.
Yeah. Do you think that the path you had been through, you had already kind of tried some other things? Yeah. You had kind of tried the extreme things first, they didn't work. Do you think that made you ready?
Yeah. And I think hearing from so many women about what their recovery journey looked like, and it spoke so deeply to my own that it felt like the right thing to do. And I'd spent a lot of time writing and meditating and going to acupuncture, and it felt very clear to me that this was the option that was going to really make an impact. So for sure, I was spent and I was done with doing another freaking letrozole round. I was very much over that process. So I just wanted to do this I think in my opinion, the right way, which is supporting your body in its natural functions.
Yeah. Well, isn't it just like so nice to know that you can?
Yeah. Oh, it's
Like,
beautiful.
I
It's
could do it
incredible.
again if I wanted to do it again.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yes. So then you got pregnant and that was all hunky dory, right? Is it how'd it go? Was it everything you dreamed? Is it everything you dreamed?
Yeah. It's the most intense process I've ever experienced. Pregnancy, birth, she was breech, so I ended up having a C-section.
Oh wow. Yeah.
She had a little short umbilical cord, so she wasn't she couldn't turn.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, when they pulled her out, they said that to me, and
like, oh, this makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So and then, you know, of course, having her in this intense feeling of love is unlike anything you'll ever experience. So it's been unreal. She's 14 months old and she's a firecracker. She's incredible. And she, you know, I think having a girl also makes me think about this process even more, and my own process growing and maturing, and just being hyper aware of, for example, being cognizant of how I talk about food, and honoring what she wants to eat versus, you know, putting like a hat on, for example, and asking her, how does that make you feel? As opposed to telling her what I think it looks like. So there's so many things that this process has taught me about, you know, honoring what it feels like for you and your body and trusting your body. So it's been incredible. She's taught me so much about myself. It's been different than what I thought it was going to be, but in the best ways possible. So it's been amazing. It is.
Why is it different to what you thought it was going to be?
Yeah. I didn't think I was going to be so maternal. I am very connected with her, and I also didn't think I was going to breastfeed for so long. So I breastfed for a year and was very committed to that process. And
it was dude, breastfeeding changes you.
Whoa.
Do you feel like when you weaned off, you got your personality back?
Right.
That's how I feel.
Yeah, it was 2 weeks. I had emailed you, I think maybe a few weeks before I was deciding to fully wean off, about, I'm a little bit nervous about getting my period back. It was 2 weeks after I stopped completely weaned off, I got my period, but it was that, and also just the time spent of pumping and all the things. I mean, you come back, but also your time comes back.
I think that's why, because it's like, instead of having to get up in the morning and go straight to pumping or whatever, I just like was miserable, and I just end up spending a lot of time like scrolling my phone or whatever, because you know, which I don't want to be doing. But I tried journaling, and it was like,
it's so awkward. No.
Yeah. So yeah, I feel you. I'm very passionate about weaning.
Yeah. It's I'm glad that I did it. But it was I think breastfeeding, especially in those early ages, was the most difficult part of the entire thing. She also completely, you know, she like ate off my nipples pretty much. So I was like in a really bad shape. She was pretty painful also. I don't know. I hadn't heard so much about the breastfeeding process and what this can feel like and look like for you and your time commitment. So that part was shocking to me. And, you know, if your husband or your partner is helping you with feeding, the recommendation is you should be pumping. So it's not even like you're sleeping during those time frames. So I was doing all of the things. I didn't do it. Good for you.
Every second day, I was like, there's no chance I'm getting up in the middle of the night. So every second day, it was either his night or my night from day one for 10 straight months. And so for 10 straight months, every second day, I would wake up absolutely full, completely full. And it caused me to underproduce a bit, but I just still was like, whatever. And I was getting down to the point where I would have to be pumping milk during my workday and walk it down to daycare when I didn't have enough to send her. But I was like, I refuse to give up this 50% of my sleep.
That's really smart. And we started to give her formula about 6 months in. So I wasn't, I wasn't like,
you're like, I give up on this. I totally did the same thing.
Yeah. You know, and I think rest and sleep were something that you taught me early on too, and about not setting an alarm and not waking up, having coffee and working out. And so rest those first few months too, you're not sleeping much. And so that part was really hard too. So, that was surprising. There was a few things that were surprising, but overall this experience has been incredible, really hard and lovely. And for example, a couple of days ago, she fell down our concrete stairs. It was absolutely the most horrific thing ever. But you're like, oh my gosh, how I care so deeply about this human, and they have my whole heart. And so it's hard to go about your life knowing how much you care so deeply about something. So
I have heard this many times for people. Like once, as soon as they're born, they're like, you're like, my heart is now outside of my body, and I cannot protect her at all times. Do you do daycare, or are you at home with her full time?
Yeah. So we do a nanny share, which has been really nice. So it's another family, and I really like working. And I really like this idea of having, some support, during this time. So it's worked out really well. Quite frankly, we also did daycare too, and that was rough. She got COVID, she got croup, she got hand, foot, and mouth all within the first 3 months. So it was really gnarly.
Yes, it's so gnarly.
Yeah, it was not fun. So
they also get bitten.
Yes, right. Well, she probably is going to come from my daughter, because she likes to bite and do all the things. So we got to be we got to be careful with that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, I love it. I was so glad that, and 100%, it's like you go from one lifestyle and then you reintroduce this, like, I'm now this, like, listen to my body, sleep in, like, what do I want person? And now I have a baby, and it's just like, it's not that. It is not. I have just realized that I have not brushed my teeth today. Right. Just before we got on this call, I was like, because it's like, you also, when they are at daycare, you have to cram everything in.
Yes.
So it's still like go, 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 go.
Right.
And you're just like, it's great. It's great. And I think one of the things that was so great about having gone through this process prior to getting pregnant, that not everyone gets to go through, is you really learn about letting go of control. And you really learn about, like, going with the flow. And you're like, okay, this is my season of life. And I'm just a hot mess for a little while. And I'm just going to wear that.
That is, so I had a conversation. I was probably about 6 months pregnant with my best friends. And I had asked her about, and we were just talking about this change and growth. And she said something to me that I'll never forget. It was the biggest compliment I could ever imagine. She shared that there is a lightness to me, that she has noticeably seen since pre-pregnancy, or during that time when I was, essentially doing WAG and brute body, and just around this control aspect, and this lightness to her has really been something that she's noticed and has been really proud of me for. And that's like all you want to hear, especially from someone you care about so much. So that was huge, and really has encouraged me to continue this journey, which will be certainly likely lifelong, right? About letting go of control and resting and honoring your body, which I hope to continue to do, and listen to. So that is a huge benefit of this program, for sure.
It's so good. I really like your friend.
Yeah,
because it's one of the things that we talk about that is hard, is like feeling like, if I go down this path, I'm going to, like, lose external validation. And although it's not wise to chase external validation, it is actually there. If you just step into it, like, you will continue to be loved by others. And if anything, your diligence to your diet and your training is not something that really anyone is, like, the only thing you're getting is, oh, you're disciplined, like, you're the fit person. And it's like, people are so attached to that, but like, why are you, like, why do you care about that particular compliment, when someone could be looking to you for, like, hey, how is it that you just, like, manage to care for yourself so much. Or like there's this lightness, right? It just sounds like a way cooler compliment.
Well, and you're a better friend, right? Yeah.
I think because you're showing up better for other people.
Exactly.
And then that's making them truly appreciate you.
Yeah.
Not just think that you're disciplined.
Yeah. It's been awesome. So that if I can continue to do that, and if my daughter can continue to feel that, then it's all worth it, you know?
I love it. Are you guys going to do it again?
Yeah. Have a baby.
Yeah.
I mean, we definitely want to. We had talked about this a little bit and sort of your thoughts on it, but I'd like to have another baby and go through that process. I have also liked having my body back over the past couple months.
It's a real tough decision. And then you kind of look like, okay, I'm also in my 30s. So like how much of this is a choice for me? Yeah. It's definitely like bittersweet to go and get pregnant again. But, you know, you get your body back again. So
yeah, for sure. I had a pretty rough first trimester. So I think that, you know, it was like I felt really sick it feels like forever. It's only, you know, it was probably about 14 weeks, but anyways, there's just these things, right, that you're anticipating and thinking about going through the whole process. But to me, I think being pregnant and getting pregnant is such a privilege. So I'm excited for it. I would love for my daughter to have a sibling. I have a little brother and I liked that a lot. So about a 2.5 age difference. So yeah, we'll see. I hope so. I have full intention to get pregnant again.
Yeah. And you have full capability and knowledge and skills to go and do it. You know, when you want to, like, you know what to do. And there's what I love about all of the things you have to consider. None of them is how am I going to get pregnant? And that is pretty cool.
Yeah. I am very in touch with my cycle, so much so, right? You know exactly the day you're going to ovulate, you know, when you're going to start your period. It's just it's not a form of control by any means, but a way of honoring your natural body's systems. And it can tell you how to, you know, what days you should be resting, or things that you might be feeling the next following days because you're ovulating or because you're going to have your period. So it's just like beautiful indicator of your health that I love to honor. I'm like kind of obsessed. You've taught me how to be sort of obsessed with this process, but it's so cool.
But it's cool. That's why I feel like it's called the fertility awareness method. Is the perfect name. Yeah. It's just, you have this awareness that gives you information that allows you to make decisions that are in line with your true goals. And you're able to kind of check in and be like, and what are my goals coming from a place that I want them to, or that I feel like they should come from? And that's what it's all about. And you just blend the two and you live your life, and it's so great. So I'm so stoked. It's been awesome to kind of get to relive your timeline and where it's all at now, and so excited. And do you have your postpartum period now? Yeah.
So I've had three periods. I'm on my period today. It started today. Ooh. as it, you know, would if I'm speaking with you. So yeah, it's been all good, all working as it should. So it's been a nice, easy process. Yeah.
That's what we want to hear. Okay. Well, thanks so much for sharing. I think that your story is going to be really inspiring for a lot of people who have the exact same goal as you and who are struggling with like the same things, that like initial steps that they had to take. You know?
Well, it's been an honor to talk to you, Dani, and thanks for giving me the space to talk about my story. I appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime. I would do it all over again. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed my story, and we will see you guys next week. Bye. Thank you so much for listening today, guys. Please subscribe to the podcast, and if you could head to iTunes specifically and leave a rating or review, that would help so much, because it makes it easier for other people with HA who are Googling around to find the podcast really easily. So if you do that, you're doing a service to all of the women